first 12 months. And so we call it a trial period for our buyers. And so because if I do a lease option and they don't do what they're supposed to, it's a very simple eviction instead of a foreclosure.
Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. This is Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Welcome. If this is your first time tuning in to the show, to this episode, we certainly appreciate it. Definitely appreciate all the support. Going to be a fun show. Looking forward to interviewing this guest here in a second. And if you're a return viewer, follower, listener, watcher, thanks again. We couldn't do the show without us. The joke that Ian and I have is we pretty much talk every day related to real estate, commercial real estate, residential real estate, marketing, business, personal finances. So we might as well just hop on live and bring in some of the best guests that are actively doing investing as well, so we can all learn together, huh?
Yeah, man. No, I was laughing because we also can't do the show without our opening. And every time I do the open, the intern, for those that can't see, that sits just to the right of me, likes, now that he's a full-time employee, likes to remind me that he made that open. So thank you, Sean. You got your first official shout out on the show. Your background noise, you're not supposed to be clapping, sir. But anyway, with that being said, as Jason said, we like to bring in our friends, our guests, people that we know that are actually doing deals. And guys, if you get any value out of this, the best compliment we can give our guest is by sharing the show. So please do it. If you get value out of it, if you think someone else should hear the message, and I know today's episode is going to be really good, and what we're going to cover, because we know our guest very well. And it should be fun. So if you get value, please let's show Travis some love and share it. So enough about us, enough about the housekeeping stuff. Let's bring Travis in. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's up, guys? That's a sick intro, man.
Yeah. Well, dude, please don't let Sean know. He's in the background laughing. So
I was thinking about changing it out, to be honest with you. Kind of getting a little bit stale.
Well, it's got more of you than Ian, so I don't know if I'd change it too much, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty sick intro. You are right. Yeah. So Travis, just give us a real quick background. Where you're from, kind of how you got into real estate, things like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, cool. Well, thank you for having me, guys. It's cool to get to see y'all again, hang out. I know when Ian and I first hung out, it was a pretty the vibe was pretty good from the beginning. And so it's cool, when you meet guys and you get a click like that. And so who am I? So I guess I'm a hunter, a fisherman, Christian, and I do some real estate stuff. And so, but I live in Southern Illinois. And so my single family company is Tabby's Properties. We're based in the Southeast. We service the full state of Georgia, Northern Alabama, Chattanooga, Knoxville, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And we just buy ugly houses and we make them pretty. We'll buy anywhere from 70 to 80 homes a year. So just anywhere from 6 to 10 a month, it seems like. And our primary purpose for doing it is we own or finance homes on the back end. And so we buy probably 60% of our homes creatively, and we sell or finance them on the back and either wrap them or we just hold the paper, and we hold the paper in-house.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I got to ask you, because, we do like taking it back, but it's even pertains to what you do. Some people think this owner financing, wrapping notes is super confusing, super hard to do. It's next level skill set. Did you do that from day one? Is that how you entered into the real estate market, or is it a skill set that you picked up over time?
Dude, that's a good question. It's something I picked up over time. I wish I would have started here, though. It is. I would say it's about like anything. It has the appearance of being a lot more complicated, except once you start to learn it, it's just like anything. You start to, the beauty in creative finance is you have to understand tax, title, deeds, liens, and all of the things that we think are complicated inside of real estate. And man, about anything can be learned in 2 to 10 hours. And so what we did was we would just study the certain aspect that would confuse us. And it was just pretty easy, breakthrough on how to do it.
Yeah. So just to give an example. So basically you're going out, you're picking up a house, you're owner financing it, you're buying it owner financing, and then you're turning around and selling it to another investor with owner financing and making that gap difference. Is that kind of a true statement?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, whether we buy it seller financed or sub two. So for the audience, like sub two is just simply when we take over somebody's mortgage. And so what we might do is, let's say Ian's the seller, so everybody can understand sub two. So, hey, Ian, he's got to sell his home. He's got good debt on his house. And so what I'm going to do is we are going to probably give Ian some walkaway money. So anything from $5,000 to probably $15,000. So we'll give Ian a check, and then I now get the deed and am responsible for his mortgage. The debt stays in his name, but I'm sending the checks every month to Wells Fargo. And the reason why we do that is because we've got like 23 years of sub 5% debt. And so I can still buy homes at, 2, 3, 4%, 5%. And then we wrap everything at 10%.
So how much equity is typically built into these houses already? So let's say that, I guess let's do dollar figures just so the audience can, compare.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can buy them. I mean, you can buy them with as little as $5,000 in equity. And that's probably about how we did it whenever we first started out. We would target pre-foreclosures with low or no equity, because super simple. It was shooting fish in a barrel pre-2019 before everybody started pumping money into, the economy and, saving everybody from it. But today we've got a pretty good marketing system through PPC and a pretty good lead generation and acquisition system. But 30 to 70,000 is probably pretty average per home on equity now.
And then, I guess the goal is you're selling these to other investors. What are they keeping that debt in place, or are they typically getting new debt?
So I actually don't sell to investors.
Okay,
I sell to homeowners. Yeah, so it's just like it is, Miss Sarah and Mr. Sarah who can't get a bank loan, or they're a business owner, or divorce, or bankruptcy. They've got something that's like restricting them from getting a bank loan, and so we will still provide them like that home ownership within it.
Got it. And they don't really care too much about what the equity is anyways, because they're just caring about the terms and the payments, I'm assuming, right? Is it affordable?
Exactly, man. Yeah, I mean, because they've had something bad happen in the past where their landlord either, kind of burnt them, they did a lease option, somebody burned them. They've just had a bad track record with something. And so we'll still vet them. And so our mission is anybody who wants to own a home, we try to give them the opportunity to. And I'll tell you something really cool, man. So I started doing this in 2019. And they cash out, right? People start to either move or get their own bank loan or whatever, right? They relocate for a job. I've had 3 in the past. This was last year, though. I've had 1 this year. 3 last year that they refinanced their properties, and they all made over $100,000 refinancing their homes or selling them. One guy did sell it, and he made like $114,000. And so it's really cool that we can do something, make quite a bit of money off of it, and then our buyers get the opportunity of home ownership, equity. They get to own it, build their own equity in the property, and it's been pretty neat, man. And when that started to happen is whenever I was like, oh shit, this is cool. We're actually doing something that's useful for people.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And I know a couple people have coined the phrases slow flips. Obviously Pace Morby's out there running around talking about sub two, picking these deals up. It's like a hot topic right now. I know that you mentioned sub 5% debt out there that people can, trade them to you. So it's been real interesting to watch as people grow these portfolios. So let's just say I am the guy that comes in and buys the house, or Jason comes in and buys the house from you. I sold it to you. You take my mortgage over. You gave me $10,000. Jason's coming in to buy it. Is he getting the deed transferred to him, or has the deed been transferred to you? Who's responsible for maintenance, taxes, insurance, all that fun stuff? What's happening there?
Yeah. So you can do it several different ways, but I'll tell you the way that we do it. And so I buy your house. So I now have the deed. So Tabby's has the deed. And then what we will actually do is we do a lease option for the first 12 months. And so we call it a trial period for our buyers. And so because if I do a lease option and they don't do what they're supposed to, it's a very simple eviction instead of a foreclosure. And so we run a lease option on them. They got to do $5,000 or $10,000 down, and they always have to hit around $20,000 total. So they have 12 months to give us another $10,000. Once they went through that full 12 months, gave us $10,000, we will either give them a contract for deed, or we will then transfer the deed and create an official mortgage for them.
So
Yeah.
wait, got it. So you're going to do, so you're going to give them an official mortgage, a new fresh mortgage that you're holding yourself, or from the original seller the original loan that the seller had when you bought the property.
One from us. Yeah.
One from you guys. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll just give it directly to them. And so it makes it, I used to just give them the mortgage right off the bat and the deed. But then, COVID was kind of annoying with how the market reacted. And so this is our way of like insulating if that happens again or something like that I don't know about, because I didn't know about COVID. So what's the next, thing that could affect?
So what are your terms typically to them if you're writing a new mortgage?
10% down and 10% interest, 30 year.
Okay, got it. Okay, so
he's making 5% spread on the existing mortgage, and then if he can sell for another $50,000 on top, he's picking up 10% on that $50,000, all amortized at whatever's left on the mortgage. Correct? Or are you reissuing 30 years?
We reissue 30 years.
Yeah.
So if I buy a 12-year-old mortgage, right? Let's say Ian's mortgage was 12 years, and I sold it to a buyer on a 30-year AM. That back 18 years of that mortgage will be free and clear for us.
Yeah.
And so like by the 15th mark, I think we've got 91 or something wraps now. Probably about year 15, it's kind of cool. It probably jumps 30 to 40% the cash flow on the portfolio.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, and I think we've talked about this on some other episodes with guys that renovate notes and do similar business models, is you could turn around sell this to an investor and still have control of that property, because you can sell them a tranche of payments. Hey, I'll give you 20 payments, but give me 10 payments worth now, and I'll sell you 20 payments. Right? Like, people can step in, but you still have control of the deal because there might be 300 payments total. It's really interesting. Where do you see yourself going in this space? Have you dabbled in the commercial land development? Like, are you able to apply this besides just single family, or is this the best place to apply this skill set?
Man, it's funny you ask that. So I bought Blackacre mobile homes. I bought half of it about a year ago. And we buy, RV parks, and basically we either double or triple their size. And now we've kind of gotten into tiny homes. So it's a mixed bag of like tiny homes. Started out as mobile homes. Now we're in tiny homes and RVs. And it's interesting because the way we acquire all of the parks, they are creatively purchased. So we either take over their debt or they're seller financed. And then the way we just acquired all of our tiny homes, they are entirely seller financed at 0% debt to us from the manufacturer. And so it seems like we're starting to apply it, I'm starting to apply it in that company as well. And it's cool, man, because it's like not just one door on those parks. It's like 50 or 100 or 200 doors at a time. Like you guys in storage, right? Like you'll buy, thousands or hundreds or of units or square feet or whatever it might be. And like, I've loved the single family space, but I've noticed it's very easy to translate this into the parks for us so far. Yeah. Now the infrastructure is a different animal in itself, but like these tactics seem to be exactly the same, almost easier, truthfully. Like the seller knows exactly what I'm doing. And so he's like, okay, well, here's where I need it to be. And it's like, okay, well, here's what they're renting for. So here's what I need it to be. Like, how do we get there?
Yeah, well, and it's much more B2B. We've talked about that before in the commercial real estate space. It's B2B, right? Where you're doing B2C. So people think, and I'm sure you got a really good sales process, and I know you teach people, but B2C, people always feel like they're getting scammed. Whereas B2B, it's really just it's capital. They're understanding that my capital's safe and it's controlled, and you're allocating capital correctly, and that's really what this all comes down to. It's just one big capital allocation game. And whether it's leverage or cash or whatever it is, you're able to make those pieces and move it all around.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So this will be my 8th year like in real estate, and it's almost like it took me 7 years to get to like day one of actually like understand, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like this whole 7 years was me just running around trying to figure it out, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that. And now it's like, okay, I think I have an idea on how to run this company. I think I know how to scale the single family. And now I'm applying the same things to my commercial side of things. And it's interesting to like watch your progression and shit, you barely even realize it half the time.
Yeah. What where do you think your expansion is, right? Like, you know, we're going to get more into some of your other background, and I'd be interested to see how this all connects, but you know, you're talking about expanding your business where you got to day one. And I know exactly what you're saying, because I'm like, we just hit 10 years in business, and I'm like, I made it, boys. Let's go. I know what I'm going to do now, and every day is like a new day because there's so much out there. But like, what does your expansion look like inside your business?
Yeah. So the way we have it today, so we've got acquisitions, which is the home buyer, dispositions, which is the seller. We've got marketing, we've got operations, asset management, and project management. So we've got six existing positions within the single family company, Tabby's. And what I want to do now is, it's a beautiful thing. And like our culture, our mission, our vision, our values, they're all like, I'm very happy with all of them. And they're newer to us, but what still happens within the company if one of my people leave? I kind of got to go back in, or like everybody kind of fills that gap. And so where we're headed to now is I'm bringing on an executive assistant, because I need somebody that can like clone me and be in the middle of me and everybody reaching out to me. And after that, it's doubling every position to where when we have vacations, somebody leaves. It's just having 2 people in every role, because man, I think about that all the time, dude. Like, you know, you get a phone call and it's like, hey, I'm either worn out or I'm going here or wherever you might be. And like, I try to make sure that never happens, but the reality is it's going to. And so I want 2 people sitting in every seat so that it's never, the machine never stops, or I don't have to step back in. So I'm trying to buy back my time, basically.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this like a model that you think you could do completely hands off?
I don't foresee that. I don't. Not my single family stuff. I don't know how that can happen unless I put a COO like in place. And I was actually just talking with my mentor yesterday, and like, he's looking at a COO, and it was $250,000 to $500,000 a year for like a good COO. And you know, like, I don't know if Tabby's could support that today. Like, I don't think we're far off from it, but that's a little bit of something, probably a 3-year thing for me if we go that route.
Yeah, no, just curious. I mean, because some people, like including myself and Ian, like don't want that. Like, we don't want to be fully removed. You know, it's one thing that it's always interesting of like, could you fully remove yourself? Because if not, then the business is contingent on you. But at the same time,
yeah,
you know, I think most people, at least later kind of in their career, they've set this up, you know, the way they want to set it up, right? So it's like, you're not doing things you don't want to be doing regularly.
Yeah. What else am I going to do?
Well, I get it.
Like, I
We're on
gotta
the same
have something
page.
to do. Like, I'm literally, you know, this is my second office, right? Like, I'm literally at the golf course. And so like, this is where I want to be, like, doing my work, right? Like, I really enjoy, you know, this type of stuff. And I don't know how it could specifically be hands off, but I'm sure, like, you know, I'm sure there's a way. But I'll tell you, like, the one cool thing too is, while you're getting to build all this, like, because for me, I feel like the hands off is like, I quit. And that's why I like the creative finance, and why you guys, you know, Jason, I know you run a badass, you know, hard money, and Ian's got, you know, a few units under management. And so, you know, like, I think for me, it's the one day of like, hey, I'm out. I think that's when I get hands off. Like, asset manager takes control. They run the portfolio, send me the distributions at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of viewing it, but I would challenge you, and, you know, guys, this is why we do the podcast this way. At the beginning, you said, well, I'm everything, and then I'm a real estate investor. So, yeah, you're telling us one thing over here. You're like, yo, dude, like, I'm ready to stay in the game, but then you introduce yourself in a completely different manner. Like, do you ever fight your identity like that? Which I give you massive credit to say, because we used to do it all the time. Hey, we're firemen first, and then we're real estate investors. Whereas you're like, hey, I'm this, and then I'm a real estate investor. You ever had that internal fight, that internal strife? on that identity?
I think too often for me, but I think, and also like I introduce myself that way so that like I try to keep the first things first as well. It's like why do you tithe, right? Like why do we give our money to the church even though we might not know what the church is like doing with it? It's not
Right.
the point in like what the church does with it. The point is that you never let money be the first thing and in control of your life. You just give it to God. And so I think for me, I try to introduce myself that way so that besides my like hobbies, my family, and my faith, those all go first and then real estate. The reality is they don't all the time, right? Like I screw them all up 7 ways to Sunday. But I think that's like that's the identity battle.
Do you think your current business model on the residential side is repeatable in every market? Do you think you've strategically picked the markets that work the best for this? I'm just curious, because as I've learned from a lot of real estate investors and private lenders in different markets, even though the overarching real estate investing model, it's a broad model, but it's similar. There's a lot of different things in lots of different areas related to different laws, different price points. Some areas are high rent focused, some are high flip focused, right? Because there's a lot of built-in equity. Like, do you think you could get into, I don't know, is it tailored towards a lower price point market, a higher price point market, a median housing price market?
Yeah. So I think it's relatable in any market that you do it in, but I think lower price markets have its benefit. And by that, I mean, so when I buy a home, our buy box is anywhere from like 80 to 150,000 on the acquisition side. Exit is usually 150 to 250 on the exit side. Those price points are really tough to beat for my buyers, right? Because then it's like $1,300 to $2,000 mortgage. In today's environment, to have a home that you can own, those are very affordable in my mind. So I think it does benefit to be in like Augusta, Georgia, my favorite market, man. Like Brick Ranch is there all day for 80 to 100 grand. And so, that I think that has a lot of benefits over like LA or San Diego, where it's tough. I think the creative financing can be done anywhere, but I think for our model, lower housing is better.
I know a good hard money lender in Augusta, Georgia, if you need one.
Yeah, that's your guys' neck of the woods.
It's not at all. It's not at all. It's not me. Okay. I just there's a guy in our group that lends in Augusta, and I just have always been intrigued because I'm like, you're in Augusta, Georgia, and that's he's the king of Augusta. He knows a lot of people down there, and he does some good business. And
you guys just like the site visits there. That's all you guys want to do.
Yeah,
just in April.
His backyard is the course. No, not in April. That's when you don't want to be there. That's all the owners in Augusta leave in April because they rent their houses out for a ton of money for that week.
So I got this company. They are building like apartments and hospitals there for the college, and they have 10 rentals from me. And so they'll pay rent plus $400 a month. So it's a really good like rental. But I notice every April they're vacant, and they said that they make almost the full year's rent payments to me in that like one weekend for those units. So like they sublet them out, and I don't care. But it's really interesting to see like maybe because I've got probably 50 or 60 homes in Augusta, and like I should probably look at that model for the month of April. And I just want to go. I've never even been to the freaking Masters. So
I went in 2018. I mean, it's either 16 or 18. Whenever Sergio won, I think it was 18.
Yeah, I went to the Players this year. That was pretty sick down in Jacksonville or St. Louis, wherever it was.
Nice. Yeah. No, I was just curious because, Ian and I interview a lot of real estate investors. Like I said, it's just, it's funny because, everyone in Texas has these interesting strategies, mostly on land. And we're like, not that doesn't work out here, but, we don't see that stuff on the East Coast. You got, it takes you whatever. It could take you a few hours to get to the next state. In a few hours, we could be in 6 different states. It's just different. Demo, just very populated and things like that, for better or worse. I mean, there's also a lot of real estate investors that we do loans for that flip houses that make 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures they can make on a flip. So that's something you don't see, right? Like our cash flow on rental properties if you look on like a cap rate basis, it's not all that attractive.
Right.
But if you look on it on like, yeah, but you have appreciation, or like when we do things, we don't necessarily base things off of percentage. We base it off of like dollars and equity. Because I'll give you an example. If I do a loan on $100,000 property and I give them 65% loan to value, which is pretty standard. So I give them a $65,000 loan. We have 35% in equity cushion. That's great. But we only have $35,000 in equity that could get chewed up if something falls apart. Right now, on the other side, if it's a $300,000 property and I give them 65%, 195 loan, that's $105,000 in equity that can be chewed up. So like just that alone, is a big difference that I think some people just don't take into consideration all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with Travis's price point, he's navigating that missing equity, because worst case scenario, my assumption is you can just go in and lease them all out, cover your mortgages, and you'll be fine. How much market investigation do you do to be like, hey, I'm looking for crime statistics, I'm looking for population growth, or you just kind of spot checking something works and then you go back and hit that hard again because it worked one time?
Yeah. Well, marketing is a little indicative on what we do too, but we basically just do like metros. So we'll do the top. So for Georgia, I like Macon. Georgia is kind of getting interesting because the hospital systems are growing there. Greenville has always been extremely attractive because of GHS, that massive. So I like hospital systems and military bases. And so those are my two like main things. We actually target military in Texas in our RV homes. And so we got an approved housing segment there. But for me, it's a hospital system that has like a growth rate. You can look up P&Ls. I do check the sex offender stuff when we're buying a house. I really don't like acquiring a home in that area. If it's a great deal, we'll wholesale it or flip it. We flip still quite a bit to like make up a lot of money because the team's bigger. So we've got to make quite a bit of revenue. Creating $1,000 a month in cash flow doesn't really do you that much good when you're operating a sizable company. But hospital systems and military bases, man, are my main thing.
Yeah. And I got to ask you one more question. We're kind of all over the place, but you're a very interesting guy, so I enjoy it. You've been a part of masterminds. You've been a part of groups. We've sat in the same room. How has that helped you expand, grow your business, identify who you are? Like, what does that look like? And is it still a part of your business model, I guess I would say today, to be a part of a mastermind or send team members to those types of events?
Yeah. So today I try to take my team members when it like makes sense. But man, so my kids are little, my kids are 3 and 4, or I would go to 10 a year.
Right.
I get jacked getting there, man. It's fun. Like the camaraderie, like you always find a dude that like you enjoy hanging out with, like you get to have some drinks, or if you don't drink, whatever, it's still enjoyable. But I'd say masterminds have done a couple things for me. One, I never really understood like the networking piece, but that has played a huge part in my life now. I haven't really ever had to learn how to like do a lot of stuff. I can just call a guy that is very good at it and either, hire them as a coach for their time, or we can, or they can, they'll spend the time to get to help you. The other thing is just giving me the confidence to be able to do things. I think is like whenever we get to hang out and you understand these guys either flew in on their jet or they had a 50 million under management or 100 million under management. And then you get to hanging out with them and you're like, man, they are just the same person that I am. Yep. And I think it's inspiring and gives me belief and hope and all of that stuff that it's like, okay, cool. Like just enjoy the ride. It's going to take you somewhere. And so just enjoy that part of it. Like getting to the 100 million isn't the point. The point was the effort that it took to get to the 100 million in it. So that's the two biggest things for me, man. I'm sure everybody's got their own thing, but like I love the hangs, and then like I always just feel inspired when I'm out of it, and not a bullshit inspired. Like I'm motivated, turned on, like to get after it.
I think we would all agree with that. Jason just had his event. We had ours a few weeks ago. I think everybody, not only from the person that puts it on, that's why we have a group, or that's why we're a part of a group, but the attendees, everybody's like, God damn, like or first time meeting you, I was like, Raps, I've heard of it. I never actually met someone that actually does it at scale. I was like, God damn, like I need to research that business model. Falls to the wayside, and you're like, all right, that's cool. Same reason we do this podcast. We talk to real people doing real stuff, and you're like, you know what? It's going in the Rolodex. Anything ever pops up, Travis, how would you set this up? I think really building that network is super important. I mean, Jason just said it. Hey, I got a guy in Augusta if you need someone.
Yeah. Well, dude, one thing on like what I enjoyed about your guys is because some of them are super organized and, they're very regimented on what they do. Like, I love it when there's room for chaos and like goofiness and like whatever we get on and off of. And that was what, yours was a smaller room of dudes. And like, I'm sure that net worth in that room was silly across the board, but you never would have known it, like
we're all dressed like this.
Everybody got Carhartt. Everybody's got pit stains. I mean, just hanging out, and so it's tough to beat that environment.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Dude, we appreciate this. One thing we like to ask all our guests, like, what's one book or podcast that you enjoy or think everybody should go check out or read?
So I'm going to give two for two different people. So for those of the guys that are, this one's for anybody. So Goals by Brian Tracy. It's an older book. I'm very heavily goal related. And so it seems in my life, man, I just did a cool presentation in Nashville on goals and what it did for my life. And I showed what the goals I'd set 5 years ago and how I literally fucking hit every one of them. And I hadn't looked at them in 5 years. And it was insane. Some of them that I'd hit. And that just programs your subconscious mind to just, you give a man or a woman a target and they effectively look at that target every day, their mind will figure out how to get them there. Somehow it will figure it out. So that book's been incredible. So people starting out, people super advanced that are kind of losing their way, that book will help reset them. For the people that are extremely busy in their life, as I was about 6 months ago, this book helped me a lot. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And it talks about, like we hire for roles, right? That's what we're taught to do. But in reality, we just need to hire to get more time back. And so the things that are taking the most time for, just hire those things out. And it goes a lot more detailed, helps you break it down. But that book was really useful for me. And now it's driven me to this executive assistant where I posted the job ad and I was like, I need you to, all the way from talking to my investors to literally letting my chickens out of our coop when we're on vacation. That's the spectrum of work here. So
put it in the job description.
Yeah, dude, I didn't put it in there, but I put it in the video link in the job description.
I can attest. I got a lot of value out of that book as well. And I don't, and I think if you're just starting out or, if you have a gigantic team and you think you got it all figured out, you never know what you're going to get out of it. Yeah. Ian and I typically read the same books around the same time so we can just talk about them. Yeah. Be like, hey, what'd you get value in? What'd you get out of value in it? Because you can't, I hate, a little quick rant. I hate when people are like, oh, I don't need to read the book. Just give me the cliff notes or just tell me what it's about. It's like, you're missing the point completely because my takeaways and your takeaways are going to be completely different. And when I reread that book in a year from now, my takeaways are going to be different than they were a year ago.
It's not even the point of reading the book. The point is you're able to sit, you're reading somebody who took 20 years knowledge, put it right here, and your ability to think on it while you're sitting there reading it. That's the whole fucking point. No we just think it's just give me the information. It's like, dude, if that was so easy, then
yeah. The information's the easy part. It's the execution. It's the same thing when people are always like, hey man, I don't need to read Tony Robbins because I know everything he's going to say, or I don't need to read this because I'm the expert. It's like,
yeah, I bet
you're not.
I bet
you're not.
Exactly.
You're right. You know what? You're right. You shouldn't read it.
Exactly why you should read it, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. A trick to reading too, for anybody that either struggles with it or doesn't like it. So we all have our different frames on how we collect knowledge and understand things. And so if you will listen to a book while you read it, so you turn on, now this is how book companies double their sales, but they're not wrong with how you collect information. Is you turn on Audible and it reads the book to you while you're holding the book, reading the book. And it's a double, it is a double dose of knowledge.
I haven't tried that yet, but I've heard that. I've heard that as well.
Yeah, it's hard to go back once you do it, man. It's like,
Oh, really?
but then you like miss out on times that you could just be reading because you're like, I don't know where my phone is, or my kids have it, or something. But
Yeah, not being
Travis,
wired.
this has been great, dude. Certainly appreciate all this. What's a good way that everyone can get in contact with you if they have potentially a question or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I'll drop it in the show notes. I mean, Facebook's probably the best thing. I mean, Travis Oglesby. It's just probably pictures of my family and hunting, and like I'm holding my little girl. There's been a bunch of ads going around on equity buyers right now. That's my apprenticeship where I teach people how to do creative finance, exactly what we do. And there is, there's links in there that people can find.
Yeah, we'll get the links in the show notes for everyone.
Cool.
All right, brother. Definitely appreciate you coming on. Hey, listen, anyone, if you enjoyed this episode, definitely reach out to Travis. We certainly appreciate all the support, and we'll see you guys next week on the Real Estate Reserve Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.